My name is Maricel, and I have reached the age of 29. My professional life involved selling grand estates and beautiful mansions to very wealthy people. However, my evenings were spent returning home to a husband for whom I felt no respect. I had become a resentful partner. I was blinded by the attractive shine of money and success. I had a strong dislike for my husband's old motorcycle. I could not stand that machine. But one night, that very motorcycle saved my soul. An important event was coming. It would change the way I see the world for the rest of my life. My career was based at a high-end property company. Every single day, I met with rich and important people. I guided them through beautiful homes with golden decorations, shiny stone floors, and large properties that spread out like public parks. My monthly earnings reached $7,000 in commissions. When I stood inside those grand walls, I felt powerful. I felt like a winner. Yet, my private life told a very different story. My husband Mike was a teacher at a local high school. He had a gentle and kind spirit. He was always caring and attentive to my needs. Nevertheless, his monthly salary was only $2,000. While I showed luxurious rooms to wealthy clients, my thoughts kept returning to our small and cheap apartment. Our home was filled with old furniture and had a tiny kitchen area. I felt trapped within those walls. I wanted something bigger. I wanted something better. I craved a grander life. Each afternoon, Mike came to pick me up from my workplace, but he did not have a nice or modern car. Instead, he rode a noisy, aging motorcycle. The metal was covered with rust. It produced clouds of dark smoke. Whenever I heard that familiar sputtering sound reach my office window, my heart would sink. A sharp feeling of embarrassment would hit me. I was certain that my coworkers were watching. They drove expensive BMWs and Audis. Meanwhile, I had to climb onto what looked like a piece of old metal. I would whisper to myself, "Why can he not do better?" I compared my wealthy clients to my husband. Every day, Mike greeted me with a warm and constant smile. He would ask, "How was your day, my dear?" But I never smiled back. I only felt a cold bitterness deep inside. My frustration always started with the noise of Mike's bike. That sound was like a loud and ugly reminder of our social position. One evening, a rich client looked at the motorcycle and laughed quietly under his breath. My face turned red with shame. I felt so small. I climbed onto the back seat and stared at the ground. I said to myself, "I am a successful woman. I deserve a better life in this." One morning, I sat at our kitchen table. I looked at Mike carefully. Then I spoke. I said that I needed a luxury car. I told him, "My clients drive Ferraris. I look poor when I arrive on your old bike." Mike checked our bank records. He let out a long, heavy sigh. "Maricel, our money is limited. Our finances are very tight right now." My skin grew hot with irritation. A fire of anger burned inside me. I raised my voice and yelled, "You are nothing but a low-paid teacher. Do you have no ambition? I work hard every single day, yet you stay the same. You never change." Mike looked down into his coffee cup. He said nothing in reply, but I could see a deep sadness in his eyes. The following morning, Mike acted with great gentleness. Before he left for the school, he placed his hand softly on my shoulder. "Maricel, I will find a way to make things better. I promise you," he said. I looked at him for a brief moment. I chose to believe him. I thought that maybe he would ask for a higher salary. Maybe he would receive a promotion. Perhaps things will change, I whispered to myself. I felt a tiny spark of hope inside my chest. However, that very afternoon, my feelings shifted. Mr. Aldridge, a wealthy banker, visited my workplace. He arrived in a stunning red Ferrari. He walked inside and presented me with a massive arrangement of expensive roses. "A high-status woman like you deserves a finer life," he said with a confident smile. I felt a sharp sting of jealousy. I thought about my small and cheap apartment. I felt miserable about my own life. That evening, Mike returned home at a very late hour. His pale shirt was torn and covered in dark dirt. He looked incredibly weak and tired. I looked at him with disgust. "Where have you been?" I demanded. "I was at the school," he answered in a soft voice. I looked at the meal I had prepared. My anger was so strong that I grabbed the plate. I threw the entire meal into the garbage bin. "You look like a homeless person," I screamed. "Look at Mr. Aldridge. He is successful. You have nothing but a broken-down motorcycle." Mike did not fight back. He remained silent. He looked at the trash, then down at his hands. I noticed his hands were trembling. He did not eat. He quietly pushed his old bike out of the small garage. "I have more assignments to grade at the school," he said quietly. The loud engine started, and he disappeared into the darkness of the night. A deep silence filled the house. I let out a heavy breath and sat down on the couch. I was busy looking through expensive magazines. I saw pictures of grand homes and beautiful jewelry. I was dreaming about a life of luxury. I did not know where he had really gone. I had no idea that Mike was fighting a battle I could not see. One Tuesday evening, a violent storm hit the city. The rain was heavy, and the wind was powerful. I was sitting inside Mr. Aldridge's luxury car. It was warm and comfortable. The leather seats smelled expensive. He was driving me to a late-night meeting to complete a $1 million property deal. I felt successful. I felt like I belonged in this world of wealth. We turned onto a dark road covered with water. The flooding was serious, and many cars had stopped. Suddenly, I saw a shape in the distance. A man wearing a thin, wet coat was struggling with an old motorcycle. He looked so small and fragile against the terrible weather. The person was trying to push the heavy machine through the rising water. As we got closer, the car's headlights lit up his face. My heart stopped for a moment. Suddenly, the truth became clear. It was Mike. My husband was not at the school grading papers. He was not in a warm room. Attached to his seat was a large orange container. It was a box for a delivery company. Mike had been working a second job as a delivery driver. He had been working in secret every night through the cold and the rain. I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I had called him a low-paid teacher without ambition. I had thought he was lazy and unmotivated. But I was wrong. He was fighting a war I had not noticed. He was working 2 jobs to give me more. He was sacrificing everything for my dreams. I watched him through the car window. Mike looked completely exhausted. His skin was pale. His eyes were dark with tiredness. His fingers were shaking as he tried to start the old engine. He kicked the starter again and again in the middle of the flood, but the machine stayed silent. He stood there, completely soaked, looking helpless under the flickering streetlights. I sat in the expensive car, unable to breathe. My own hands were shaking in my lap. The world became silent for a moment. The only sound was the heavy rain hitting the car's roof. I understood something important. My husband's old motorcycle was not a piece of garbage. It was the rhythm of his love and devotion. "Mr. Aldridge, stop the car!" I cried out. I did not wait for an answer. I pushed open the door and ran into the storm. The freezing rain hit my face like tiny needles, but I did not care about my expensive clothes or my hair. I ran with all my strength toward the man on the old bike. I reached Mike. He was shivering badly. His hands were shaking so much he could not even hold the handles. His face was white, and his lips were turning blue from the cold. He was completely wet from head to toe. When he saw me, his eyes grew wide with worry. "Maricel, why are you out here? You will get sick," he said. His voice was weak and unsteady. He tried to hide the large delivery box behind him. "Please, don't be angry, Maricel. I am almost done with my last delivery. I am working so hard. I am saving every cent I make." He looked at me with so much love and guilt. "Don't worry, my dear. Very soon, I will have enough money for that luxury car you want. I want you to be proud of me." I felt a massive wave of pain wash over my soul. I looked at this man. I had called him a poor teacher. I had called him a failure. I had thrown his food away because of my own greed. Yet here he was, in a dangerous storm, risking his health because of my selfish wishes. Tears streamed down my face, mixing with the rainwater. I grabbed his wet coat and held him as tight as I could. I whispered, "I am so sorry. I am so very sorry." I did not care about the dirt. I did not care about the smell of the old machine. Suddenly, Mike's wallet slipped from his pocket and fell into a pool of water. I picked it up. What I found inside changed my heart forever. Inside the wallet were dozens of small yellow pieces of paper. There were records of every cent he had earned from his secret job. On the back of one paper, he had written a short note. It said, "For Maricel's happiness." I took a deep breath and pressed the wet wallet against my heart. My hands were trembling. I realized that I had been searching for a palace, but I was already living with a king. Mike looked at me and gave a small, gentle smile. I understood then that gold and money were worthless compared to the loving heart of my husband. We went home in silence. The rainy night seemed to last forever. In our small bedroom, I helped Mike take off his wet clothes. He was shaking and could not speak. I wrapped a thick blanket around him, but his body continued to tremble. I sat beside him and held his hand. His forehead was burning with a high fever. Mike looked extremely tired. His eyes were closed, and he lay very still. I listened to his breathing. It was heavy and difficult. I knew his exhaustion came from working 2 jobs for my sake. He never complained once. He only wanted to make me happy. I felt a heavy weight of shame in my heart. I whispered to myself, "What have I done?" I looked around our apartment. It was small and old, but it was filled with Mike's love. I realized something deeply painful. At my workplace, I sold grand estates to wealthy people. I spoke of golden taps and marble floors. Every day, I helped strangers find their dream homes. But in my own life, I was destroying my home. I was so busy admiring expensive mansions that I failed to see the king living right beside me. Mike did not open his eyes. He only made soft sounds in his sleep. I took a long breath and wiped away my tears. I understood that money can buy a house, but it cannot buy a heart like his. I held his hand through the entire night and promised to be a better wife. The next morning, sunlight came through the window. Mike slowly opened his eyes. He still looked pale, but his fever had gone down. I was sitting by his side, holding his hand. My eyes were swollen from crying all night. "Mike," I said. My voice was shaking. I pressed his hand gently against my cheek. "I am so sorry, Mike. I was a terrible wife. I was blinded by money and greed. I did not see how much you love me." Mike smiled softly and touched my hair. "It is all right, Maricel," he whispered. "No, it is not all right. I said quietly to myself. I looked deep into his tired eyes. I do not want a luxury car anymore. I do not want to live in a mansion. I do not want to be like Mr. Aldridge. I only want you. Your heart is the most precious thing I have. Tears fell again, but this time they were tears of relief and comfort. I had a secret plan. I did not want Mike to ever work 2 jobs again. I used all the commission money for my property sales. I also took all my designer handbags. They were the ones I used to show off to my coworkers. I sold them all. I bought a present for Mike. It was a brand new motorcycle. It was sleek, shiny, and very safe. It did not make a loud noise, and it produced no dark smoke. From now on, you will rest after your classes, I told him. You are a teacher. You should be helping your students, not working in the rain because of my selfish wishes. I took a deep breath. I felt free and peaceful. I knew then that true happiness does not come from what you show to the world. It comes from how you treat the person who loves you. Mike hugged me, and for the first time in many years, I felt a real sense of peace. 3 months have passed since that stormy night. Life is calm and happy now. I still work as a real estate agent. Every day I show large estates with stone floors and beautiful gardens to wealthy people. However, something deep inside me has changed. I no longer look at my clients with envy. I do not feel bitter about our small apartment or our old furniture anymore. Mike has recovered his health. He has returned to the school to teach his students. He does not have a second job anymore, and he never goes out into the cold rain to deliver packages. I make sure he stays warm and rested every evening. Each afternoon, I stand by my office window. I wait and I listen. When I hear the sound of his motorcycle, I feel a wave of peace. I used to hate that sound. I thought it was a sign of our failure, but now it is the most beautiful sound in the world. I know he is coming to take me home, and that makes me the richest woman on earth. I'm so lucky, I whispered to myself as I saw him waving from the street. I realized that a mansion is just a building, but his love is my true home. It was only then that I truly understood that real love is the most beautiful sound of all. I realized that a good husband is not measured by his bank account, but by the strength of his sacrifice. Do not let greed turn you into an ungrateful partner. If this story reminds you to appreciate your loved one, please like and subscribe to Learn English by Stories for more life lessons. It is easy to believe that happiness comes from material things, but these daily stories remind us that true value lives in the human heart. In our modern world, we are often attracted by symbols of wealth. We see luxury cars and big houses on social media, and we start to feel unhappy with our own lives. Maricel's story is a powerful warning about the danger of comparing ourselves to others. Her bitterness did not really come from Mike. It came from the fact that she was looking at other men's bank accounts instead of her husband's heart. When we compare our lives to others, we forget to see the sacrifices our loved ones make for us every day. Mike did not work in the rain because he was poor. He did it because his love for Maricel was rich and deep. If you spend your life searching for a palace, you might miss the person who is already building a home for you with their own hands. Please appreciate the person who stays with you through difficult times. The person who shares an old motorcycle with you today is the one who will remain when the luxury is gone. True wealth is not what you show to the world. It is the quiet sacrifice made in secret. Have you ever felt ungrateful towards someone who loved you? Share your story in the comments. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe to Learn English by Stories. We appreciate you listening. We will see you in the next story.